White out and white in. It's time for Type 40 Live, materialising again with the live stream Doctor Who magazine show up across your view screen here in real time on Rumble, X, YouTube and on Facebook too. As always, we're in front of a live chat full of friends, fans and companions just like you, celebrating all of Doctor Who. We gather beneath the diamond logo and pay tribute to 61 years of the world's longest running, best loved geeky sci-fi fantasy adventure TV series. All those Doctors and all those decades. My God, where to start? Going somewhere very specific this time here. And yes, where am I? Where am I? Here I am. Yes. Hello, I'm Dan Hadley, Birmingham's King of the Geeks, and welcome. We'll find out who you are in due course, wherever you are. Please remember, if you're watching in the Type 40 Facebook group, hit the little blue link, and then Facebook will whisper into StreamYard's ear, and StreamYard will holler at us down the hallways here into the Type 40 Live console room as we get stuck right in. Yeah, let's go cozy and analog even on the free speaking, big thinking, open forum for all opinions here at Type 40, the past, the present and the future of Doctor Who, all put to rights over the next couple of hours, maybe. Results, of course, may vary. We're going to focus on one piece of coverage that's dominating the conversation around our favourite show as the weekend approaches this time. And I've got a panel who are more than well placed to get to the bottom of it. No pressure, everybody. First of all, who've we got? Yes, I'm happy to say Charlotte Shields is here. Where are you? There you are.
Hello, everybody. I think there might be rumblings about, Dan. Do you think there's rumblings about?
Rumblings? Oh, yeah. It was, sorry. Yeah, I had beans on toast earlier.
Oh, I thought it was a certain mouse. So it's you. Right, Wilson.
Hello.
Hello, everybody.
Yeah, I'm in my happy place this time, Charlotte, you see, because I'm about to talk about something that's so modern and so frustrating and so untrustworthy and unpredictable. You know, at least with this thing, everything goes pretty much as planned. All you have to remember is to give it that sort of fist on the top of the console, and then everything works fine.
Yeah, just hit it. Like that's the Doctor's logic with pretty much every TARDIS he's had, isn't it?
It is.
Reason. It's like,
it is. And if anything...
If I have a mallet or something just to hit it, it will like me and it will go where I want it to.
Yeah, and if anything falls off from the underside,
it's like how the Doctor chucks out the instruction manual, isn't it? Whenever he can.
It is. Do they need an instruction manual? The rest of our panelists, who've we got? I don't think he ever does. I think he may need shaking up because it is very early where he is. It's our real life time traveller and former Disney Plus subscriber, I believe. We've got Matt Pott with us again.
Hello. Yes, I'm not quite gone. I'm not quite gone yet. I'm still going to be around for the next few
40
months,
years, I hope.
Fortunately, no. Well, yes, that too. Well, maybe not. But I don't want to be 120. But no. Yeah, no. I've got an annual subscription, so unfortunately I can't cancel it. So they take it in advance. So I'm trying to watch a lot of old movies before I go.
Get your use out of it, yeah.
Oh, I see. They've still got your cheddar. The mouse still has your cheddar.
Yeah, unfortunately. Not for long, though. Not for long.
This must make you feel a little bit better, though, the old 1980 console there. 8081.
Yeah. Well, I would have seen it in black and white for all those early 80s, so to see it in full colour, that was just... and to know that the actual centre part is actually pink or red,
right, pink.
Or whatever, was amazing. It was like colour, it was awesome.
Everything's gone neon. Everything's gone crazy. We've got to keep our craziness in check a little bit tonight because he's not a well child, everybody, but he's made it anyway. The very brave John Yordan is back on the show.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm doing all right. There's only me and Rambo left, to be honest. So, we just keep going. Best cure for pain's more pain.
I'll do you a favour, John. You just mouth the words and I'll fill them in.
I love our collaboration, mate. It works beautifully.
Ventriloquist was worth it. You know, learning to be a ventriloquist.
I was going to say you're the Starsky and Hutch of Type 40, but it's more like Bob Carroll G's and Split the Dog, really. I'm glad to have you both.
Sooty and sweep.
You're not getting your hand anywhere near me, mate.
Okay, let's try and bring this back. Oh, actually, maybe we won't, because our last panelist this time, nothing kicks off in the Whoniverse that gets past this guy.
That was under a minute.
We've got one more person to bring on, and he's the very best at rounding it all up for us from the past, the present, and the future, and whacking it all underneath his own miniscope. For better or worse, he puts it all on blast, very much so. It's the rabbi from another planet himself, Spieler Betkin.
Hello, how are you?
Hey. Good to see you.
Your introduction, your only bit you got right is I'm very good at whacking it, right? Other than that, you know, I'm not sure what. And also, your advice on the TARDIS console, but you said your advice to give it a good fisting. You know, I would say that's literally what you said, Dan. Okay, that's literally, I would say that's not universally beneficial advice. Is all I'm saying. You know. Ask first before.
I'm getting flashbacks now to what happened to Julian Clary's career. So you might have left. I think you may.
Yeah, and he
Rabbi,
came to Australia too.
Rabbi, I think you may have left Great Britain by the time Julian Clary made that joke. Because you have done quite a bit of travelling, haven't you, Rabbi? I understand that you have frequented Comic-Con, haven't you, in San Diego?
I have. I was trying to remember what year I went. I remember it was the first year they showed the Iron Man trailer, right? And it was like, wow.
Oh, 2008.
That was 2006.
Yeah.
The movie came out in 2008, so that was around. It was around 2006.
Yeah, you're right.
Makes sense.
Oh, I see. Yeah, they would have given the old teaser trailer.
Because that would have been the one where he's flying in the sky, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Sorry?
Was it that one? Was it that one where he's flying in the sky and he's following the jet?
That's the first time you saw the Iron Man costume.
Yeah.
There was like, there was so little interest in the hall. I was like, oh, that's interesting. Changed everything, right?
So basically, Svi, it's going to be like again, surely when this panel appears with everybody's favourite showrunners.
Okay,
Yeah.
It's like the lack of self-awareness. They make Biden look like he's on the money, right? They're walking in.
They got.
It's been they got a like twisted smoking wreck of a franchise now, and they're walking in like they got everything is fine. We did a great job. No, you didn't. Everything was bad.
He's
they
off,
had to fill
everybody.
the room.
He's off. Look, across the last couple of editions of Type 40 Live, we've been stoking your boilers for San Diego Comic-Con 2024, the annual biggest event in the geek calendar, or at least it was. Now, they seem really determined to make a big comeback this year after quite a lean period. I don't think that's unfair to say. Dwindling attendance and interest. We believe that Doctor Who wasn't going to have a particularly big presence there, just a sort of small booth in the promotional area. We had the floor plan last week, but just after we went live last Thursday, they announced there's going to be this full hour-long panel where the 2 stars of season 1 of Doctor Who will be on stage with the showrunner Russell T Davies in full view in a huge space, Hall H, and they've continued to promote this week, so we've got full details there of the actual panel. So there's going to be 2 panels: the Friendship is Universal panel with Russell T Davies and Alex Kurtzman, believe it or not, and the Doctor Who panel itself, Into the Whoniverse, as well as a special appearance from the official Doctor Who podcast. Don't know what that is. And other things going on besides too. So they've got a full schedule up there. And you can visit the immersive Doctor Who booth, Matt, for a chance to ride the TARDIS just like Sutek did and get exclusive merchandise. So,
God, I thought you were worried. I thought you were going to say ride Shooty. I was like, no,
Sutek's going to ride you. That's the thing I thought. Riding the TARDIS would be like locked in a little cover with Shooty. I'm like, no!
oh dear, oh dear.
This current production, they do hold by the advice of a good fisting makes everything better.
Okay, so this is the lay of the land so far. Do you wish you could go to this one, Matt? You've been before. I don't think you'd make the trek for this.
Yeah, things have changed since the last time I went in 2008. Things are, it's a safe place now, and there's lots of rainbow stuff and all that. It's not for me. Not for me.
Catering to a different clientele.
When I went there was like True Blood and shows like that. That
was a really sexy show. Yeah, I love True Blood.
Dexter and all that sort of stuff. So nowadays I don't think I'd be interested in any of the shows that they're promoting.
I'd love to know. I'd like to go and find out really what the capacity is for Hall H. Rabbi, did you see anything in Hall H when you went, mate?
I think so, but it seemed big. I honestly, it wasn't the age where you had to line up hours, right? You could just walk into panels. It was like I think it was the MCU pretty much changed everything, made it into a zoo. But you could go anywhere. It was really, really easy. Right. The reason we didn't think Doctor Who was going to be at Comic-Con because we're shackled to logic and reason, right? We're shackled to reality. And I'm like, why would they do that? I understand Chibnall going with all confidence, like before his episodes there, right? But there's such undeserved confidence which they're exuding. I just don't understand, right? I don't understand at all. I think if I could actually ask a question, wouldn't it be great to ask a real question?
I think this is a lot of saving face, honestly.
How? How's it going to say? It's like saying, if you defecate on yourself, right, in the middle of the place, right, you think, I'll cover it up by having diarrhea now. No!
I mean, as in, if they didn't have a presence, it would have been a thing that everybody could have pointed at and said, look, that's a sign that you guys know you failed. But if they can go and put a smile on and be like, isn't everything good? Then they can save face. We all know it's a failure, that first series.
Only if it works.
I think this is actually an applying for a new job panel because Kurtzman's going to be out following the acquisition by what they're called for Star Trek. And I wouldn't be surprised with RTD with the news that's been sort of coming out that we'll talk about. But I also want to say, when they're saying International Friendship Day, I do find it highly hilarious that they've got Russell T Davies there who's been telling people to get lost over the last year.
It's been saying that as well.
Yeah.
You actually have to remember too, there were a couple of years there where during the Chibnall era, it was all pre-recorded.
Is that right?
COVID and that. Because of COVID. So there was 2 years, and there was the 1 year where they did it straight after they did like a Zoom call with fans, and the fans just said, "Oh no, I'm not very happy about the Timeless Child." and then the second year they didn't have any fans. It was just a little bit of a round table with the.
I remember now. It was called Comic-Con at Home, wasn't it? I mean, you may be wondering what the exclusive merchandise you're going to be missing out on there is this time, Matt. Well, I can spare you the agony there. You can have a look at it. So this is some of the exclusive merch. There's this set of 15 Doctors in that kind of Chibli style there. I think these are pin badges, and they come in a presentation case. What do you make of that?
Awful. I mean, my God.
I don't like them either.
They've been made in a hurry. Like I said, they take about 6 weeks from design to print and to make, and so it's absolutely. Is that all of it, or you got more?
No, there is more. I mean, this isn't worth a trip, I'd say, John. This is something that I could live without.
No.
You haven't got enough lapels for a start.
I wonder in the ocean, sort of shortly after Comic-Con, that the top 3 will just be floating in the river or in the sea, like millions of them.
I don't think they're making that many.
Well, it does say exclusive, Rabbi, so maybe that's what they're getting at.
Right.
Well,
exclusive. That means nobody wants it.
That's all right. They do actually sell the leftovers on Amazon, just to let you know.
For double the price.
Look, if that...
they do. Yep.
I'm surprised they don't have shooty Doctor Who brand condoms. That was very much beyond brand.
It's only a matter of time.
When they get wet inside, how would that happen? You get
well, look,
as you reach the climax, right? You get Doctor. Woo! That was good.
You've been spending too much time with RTD, haven't you?
Too many parties with him. That's what you've
They
been
should
doing.
definitely get you in the focus group, I think. Look, if that doesn't tickle your sack, then maybe these will. We've got two special sort of squat and cuddly TARDISes, one in the standard traditional blue, and now the also standard. We
the pink
always have to have a
one.
pink one, don't we, Charlotte? This got old years ago, didn't it?
Yeah, especially as there's been nothing in this series to reference Paradise Lost. Like, it's not even the story that it's famous for being a part of has not been part of the run this year, so it's even weirder that they've gone with
peculiar.
that.
I mean,
Yeah,
each to their own, I suppose.
Is that a stress toy?
I think so.
Yeah.
Squeezable.
I think so.
Kind of cool it is.
It looks squeezable. Like every
It
time you
does,
have to watch an
does.
episode of Doctor Who.
When your rage accelerates, yeah.
Yeah. Give it a tug. Yeah, or give it a bash.
If that is squeezable, that's going to be used for very, very bad things.
I'm unsure, Rabbi, as to the actual size, but we'll get back to you on that. Or maybe somebody out there, if anybody out there is actually going to go to Comic-Con this year, if you've got your tickets, you're going to go there for the panel and grab some of this exclusive merch. Yeah, get back to us and let us know, obviously, what the panels are like
Dan,
and what the merchandise is like. Yes.
Sorry, do you see the location of the Kurtzman Russell E. Davis one? In the gas lamp quarter. They're literally gaslighting you.
Well, they described it as a pop-up panel, which I said would probably be, they'll decide where it's going to be the day before, depending on which other space is taken, next to the lavies or something like that.
Yeah.
The gas lamp quarter.
Yeah. Just
You see that? I mean, like,
Just-
that's the perfect place for it.
It sounds
Just-
like the
just
red light
got this-
district.
just got this image now of Kurtzman and RTD both sat in urinals doing signings. You know.
In track one,
There you
you'll
go.
find Alex Kurtzman.
They can only give us this space, I'm afraid. But yeah, that would be £10, thank you.
What are they going to talk about? Like, either they're, it's going to be exactly like the
Crossover.
Totally anticlimactic. You think, oh, they're going to do a crossover. They're going to be nah.
Yeah, who's the biggest failure? I don't know which brand has tanked more. Who's to say what they will get together and chat over with while they nibble on something or quaff something down? Okay, there are people listening to all of this nonsense across YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and X. Let's go and check in with them just for a few minutes until we get into the meat and potatoes of it, shall we?
Hi guys, and welcome to Type 40.
Hello, everybody out there watching. Thank you for your patience. We are blessed with a bountiful chat full of comments already. Some of them have sobered up, but in some parts of the Britain, the pubs only just opened, haven't they? So who knows? We've got them anyway. They are here, including Lord Thoth. I think he was in first. In fact, yes. And Crimpling de Bloom was there as well with an ahoy shipmates. That's always grand to see. Darren M's in too. Darren and Stephen Braddock as well. Looking forward to this. So Stephen Braddock, we've been looking forward to it as well, mate. It's good to have you with us. Good to have you aboard as always. John, it's you, John. You're there too. Hey. Say hello to yourself. Peter Harrington's in as well. And he says, good evening. Let's go. Awooga. Awooga. That's the kind
that
of...
was the cartoon in the sun. What was it?
It's not.
It was done, but I can't remember. The cartoon in the sun.
I was going to go Captain Caveman at one point. Yeah.
What was that?
Awooga is what is the noise that isn't. I always think of that in relation to Red Dwarf.
No, you think it's just down for the alert, right? But no,
Yeah, when the bulbs aren't working, they have to do the sound manually themselves, don't they? And shout "Awooga, Awooga." We've got David Jenkins in the live chat. He doesn't have to make the noises himself, but he can if he wants to. Knock yourself out, David. Hi, everyone in the chat and all the Type 40 panel. Punch it, says Lord Thoth. He's talking about that TARDIS-shaped butt plug there on the old... Comic-Con shopping list. Ashvin's in as well. Hello, everybody, and asks if you're feeling better, John.
Yeah, I'm recovering. Thanks, mate. Good to see you. I've got the COVID.
The COVID, yeah.
It's him and Biden. It's you and Biden, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, that's his fault. He was sniffing my... Yeah, he was came too close to me, didn't he? The cheeky little beggar.
Oh, we've got Enigmatic Joker in, as well as Adrian James, Woodhouse 122 as well, and our mate Rob Alexander's also joined us again for Type 40 Live. On Comics is there too. Hail Chat says, that's Lonnie, isn't it, from On Comics? Lonnie On Comics, there we are. Bonjour says Bunch of Wallies. Don't go all continental on us. Or sophisticated. They got the right. That's Radio Free Scaro with all that. Thank you very much.
The first half an hour not give you a clue of the tone.
Yeah.
Oh my word. Who else have we got? Oh yeah, they're really letting it fly here. We've got lots of hellos to the Rabbi there. People might recognise you, Rabbi. People obviously seen and heard you before. Easily one of the best known faces and voices in the whole of Doctor Who fandom. All hail the Rabbi, says Neville. We've got Tom from T Dwarf Productions in there as well, offering horoscopes too, as always. He's very fond of the crab. It's the time of the crab. This is the last week of Cancer the Crab there. Oh, thank you for that, Tom.
There is no thing as Macra.
Don't worry, Rabbi. Millie is available, says Neville.
Oh, listen. She's got to get in line.
And Neville also asks, it baffles him too, what have Russell T Davies and Shooty and Millie done to get their appearance there at the old Comic Con? Well, maybe they'll surprise us, Matt. Maybe they'll surprise us and be incredibly entertaining and erudite. And gregarious.
You just saying that just makes me think Shooty's going to do a dance routine or something.
That's all he is going to do. Why don't they have them do that more on camera?
That
right?
with his
lean into him doing like physical stuff.
Well, he did that at the Oscars.
His wax doll. Yeah.
Wasn't Shooty part of the Ken dance routine from the Barbie movie at the Oscars?
He was normally on screen.
I wouldn't put it past him. We've got Cheryl back in the live chat here. Hello, my Time Lord friends. Oh, you couldn't. Matthew Butterfield's in the chat and says you couldn't pin one of those pin badges to your string vest. Dan, no, I haven't got any string vests left anymore. I haven't had any of those since about 1978. And Peter Harrington says Titan made some lovely small figures a while ago, beautiful ones of the Doctors, the companions, and the creatures.
They were good, actually. They had integrity.
I don't like those chibi ones. I don't like the chibli type ones. I just don't. They don't suit it.
They don't do anything for me either. Dixie Enormous is in the live. Really? The live chat. Good to have you with us, Dixie. God.
It was just bragging.
And we've got Paul Toastland as well. Hiya, Paul. Simon Anthony's back, and he says it's far too hot here. 25 Celsius at the moment. Nasty. It is getting up there. It's getting a little bit sticky, isn't it? There we are. We can't complain.
I think he said in the chat as well that he worked on Kinder. He always seems to have something, doesn't he, that he brings up every week. You know. Yeah. I need to know more. Kinder, brilliant.
He does.
Yeah, superb.
I'll tell you what else is awesome. Our conversation here, our conversations across Type 40 and Type 40 Live, and you can get even more of them on our podcast here at our home feed, type40.podbean.com, or excuse me, or up across the podcatcher of your choice. Spotify, Audible, iHeartMusic, all those places. We are absolutely everywhere. Catch up on the latest reviews, previews, interviews, geekouts, and deep dives with all our panelists and lots of awesome guests too. That's that. Okay, what else? Yeah, keep the comments coming, everybody, across YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and X. I think that people are going to have quite a lot to say about all of this, because it's what they call a hot topic, everybody, a hot topic. So why don't we get right? Yeah, let's get right into it and waste no more time.
The universe is collapsing. The only way to save it is to watch Type 40.
There he is, an open hand there, the 15th Doctor. He obviously wants a few quid. What was it, 25 quid for a chat? Was it? I can't quite remember what his prices are for
125 quid, yeah.
The Showmasters thing. Yeah. Now here at Type 40 Live, your live stream Doctor Who magazine show, we've covered every moment and metric since Bad Wolf were announced as taking over production of Doctor Who from the BBC themselves. God, nearly 3 years ago now. Where has all that time gone? But in that time, so much has happened, and we've rolled with every single punch, including the announcement of the involvement of Disney, and the confirmation that Disney Plus would now be Doctor Who's official global streaming home. It's never had one before across most of the world, and now it has. You'd think from that moment on, it would be plain sailing and the only way is up and all that sort of optimistic, hopeful jazz, but I'm not really sure that that's how it's gone down. Now, obviously, season 1, that's all over for now. All the running around and the grinning and the crying is done. Okay, maybe not the crying. I think that does continue. But we are going to return to it all now in the wake of a widely reported article from Deadline. Now, is it an article or is it an opinion piece? That's probably something else that we could speculate about as well. But sometimes you do find that when articles like this appear from a mainstream outlet, they really do travel. And in just the last 36 hours, that's absolutely been the case for this one. Now, Deadline, who are Deadline? Deadline are very mainstream outlet. Deadline Hollywood is the full name, or Deadline.com. They're an online news site. They were formed by a former LA Weekly columnist. That was Nikki Fink all the way back in 2006. And it quickly rose to become one of the biggest entertainment industry sites in just 3 or 4 years. It's now owned by Penske Media, who also own Variety, Billboard, and The Hollywood Reporter. Now, I would argue that you can't really get much more mainstream than that. And on the 17th of July 2024, they published this. Doctor Who's regeneration, has the Disney gamble paid off? A full article by Max Goldbart. Disney have held an upfront event at the North Jarvis Centre in New York over the last week or so. It's a massive publicity and investment sort of event, and they play exclusive clips and they tease projects and they get A-listers involved and all sorts. But of course, as Doctor Who fans, the stuff that we're actually interested in is anything that concerns our favourite show. Now, obviously, in Britain, it's still part of the cuddly, well, not so cuddly anymore, the once cuddly Auntie BBC, but over there in the States and everywhere else, it forms part of a whole wealth of shows, of IPs that make up content across the Disney Plus app and the projects they put into cinemas as well. The huge tentpole movies that gradually people I think are coming back to the cinemas. I'm not entirely sure if they're being successful or not. So Doctor Who being on this sort of global stage, Matt, somebody who lives abroad, who's always been an overseas Doctor Who fan, the rabbi was raised in Britain, but you're very much a sort of cousin there in Doctor Who's second home, Australia. Seeing Doctor Who attached to the Disney brand, it's still not something that I'm used to, and perhaps it was the worst possible timing for these two brands to link up, wasn't it? Well, particularly if you're Doctor Who.
When this was announced, I thought it was a joke. I didn't know. People were posting it, and I thought it had been a mock-up of someone, just putting in Doctor Who coming from Disney, and I was like, "Oh God, that'd be an absolute nightmare," And then, I started hearing that it was official, and I'm like, "Oh no, what have they done?" And
because when they announced it,
I was like, "Oh, thank God, I've still got ABC to watch it on."
But when they announced it, Matt, this app, Disney Plus, was sort of in its infancy, wasn't it? It'd been around for a couple of years at the most, and The Mandalorian, the Star Wars show, that had been quite a success. But it's one of those things, a lot of streaming platforms, I think now there are so many of them that it's hard for one to mark themselves out from the pack. At least we'd heard of Disney before, whereas Netflix kind of had to build their own legend, didn't they? And Amazon, we sort of know from the shopping, really. So a huge name like Disney having its own streaming platform that got people's attention, didn't it? But it did take a while for it to grow. I mean, the rumours are that the Disney Plus platform just keeps losing money, that this is hardly a massive success.
Well, you got to remember they purchased Fox because they needed content. That's the reason why they purchased Fox. There was no other reason for it. Look at what they've done with all their IPs, Fox's IPs. They've hardly done anything, only for what's been
they're
in the
a lot with
can
Alien.
already.
I saw the trailer today for the new one.
Yeah, but that's been in the works for a while, hasn't it? Before the whole, before they bought Fox.
Rabbi, how long has it been?
That, you know?
Rabbi, how long has it been since they brought Fox now?
Oh, I don't know.
Guess?
It was
at least 3 or 4 years, isn't it?
That was going on before COVID.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Yeah, it went on. It went on for a while. See, when they first announced it, I was so painfully naive. I was like, "Oh no, it's all going to be good." Rusty Davis, I can just a pair of hands you can trust. It's all going to be fine. I was the same thing with Jodie and Chibnall. I was like so insanely naive, right? And it's always a lot worse than you think. I think I was thrown off because I think they had one good episode. I thought the Church on Ruby Road was not even good. It wasn't a failure. I think every other episode of certainly shooting stuff, while there might have been good bits in it, overall each episode has been a failure. And it's just been so bizarre to me. They're like, it's so obvious Disney's influence, right? And it seems like Rusty Davis loves Disney's influence or is very eager to please them. So
he's been like a different man, I feel, in promoting this entire season, Rabbi, particularly over the last 6 or 7 months. I think the Russell T Davies that we saw promoting the anniversary was a bit more like his old self, but now I think we see somebody who seems to be choosing his words a little more carefully, and just as you said, John, sort of punching down. It seems to be the fans' fault all of a sudden, and he was never like that. He was one of us.
No, and we've said many a time, pride comes before a fall, and they've only got themselves to blame, really. And
pride. Oh my god.
Yeah, and I think this article, I would say, is pretty serious because they have a very, very strong connection, not with the Hollywood studios, but a very strong connection with Disney. So much so that they're normally gaslighting for Disney incredibly about Star Wars and Marvel. So the fact that they're coming out of an article like this doesn't spell very, very good news for Doctor Who and the production team at Bad Wolf and the BBC.
Because the article in question, John, it's lengthy, isn't it? There's a link to it in the description to the video, so it's there for you to read if you haven't caught it. It's all there in full, but it's lengthy. It's quite somber and reflective. There are a couple of interviewees as well, and we'll look at what they've got to say about it too. But there's no punches pulled in this. I mean, could it be? Do you think they could be being harsh on it because it's not a domestic property that's domestically American, because it's an overseas thing? Are the gloves off because it's Doctor Who?
There's two things on that. There's one, which is what you've just said, that I think could be part of it. The second one, I think, could also be a strategy from Disney to say, okay, well, we'll still be involved, but we're going to cut how much we give you. That's part of potentially a strategy. And then obviously the third one is they're just going to cut their losses at the end of season 2 airing. There'll be a brief announcement and then that'll be it. And to be honest with you, if you were Disney, even though how bad Disney are, why would you commission paying out more money for something that has been, slammed by the majority of the general public and people out there for that last season? Really, you just wouldn't.
How they look at it, Charlotte. I believe as a consumer, even though I've never been a customer of Disney Plus like Matt has, how I think they look at it is when people go to their platform, what's the choice? What's the menu? Can families assemble an evening's worth of entertainment by flipping from one thing to another? Or can you potentially put your child down or your family down in front of these shows and watch 2 or 3 on the bounce?
You cannot put your children down in front of Disney. No.
Yeah. Just to add to what John was saying, and this is what struck me as well in a similar vein, but a bit different, is for the last 5 years plus, how many failing shows have we seen in the geek Shakespeare, whether that's Star Wars, whether
Most
that's
of them.
Star Trek, other brands, that the fans have clearly rejected it. The fans are saying what's wrong with it. And the likes of Deadline and Hollywood Reporter and like the BBC over here, they all act like we're stupid. Oh no, it's brilliant. It's everything's fine. What are you going on about? Like, that's the vibe for 5+ years we've had. And suddenly now, after this series, you get this article come out where, I'm sorry, they're not defending the show. What they're doing, they're actually being quite honest in bits, I feel like, in this article.
Because it's not savage, is it? But it is very, very somber. It's very frank. It's quite reasonable. It's not. There's no hype, I suppose, or bull.
Yeah, that's struck me. It's bits of it. I was like, God, that's common sense. That's actual like stuff we've been saying for years about these shows when it comes to viewing figures and actually issues to do with actually eyes on your product. And I think the fact that it opens up with that event you're talking about, basically saying this is the event Disney puts all their prime like product on display. This is the event that they pretty much say, this is what we want to promote. And Doctor Who was hardly there. And it's like, how else can you paint that than Disney has clearly lost interest? And I think that's what this article was saying for a good chunk of it. The actual sort of interest and the want from Disney is seemingly waning a lot. And I think that's the sort of warning that's almost part of this.
Well, let's take a look. Let's take a look at how it starts off. So they start off here with this. So again, this is Max Goldbart, who's written this, who's put this all together. And the editorial of Deadline says, almost completely absent from the upfront festivities was Doctor Who, the iconic British sci-fi series that Disney Plus now co-produces with the BBC, following what was undoubtedly one of the biggest global TV show deals of the past decade. Now, that's quite significant in itself, isn't it? Because this is very much the era of the co-production. We have programs, we have productions, a big event series, for example, Rabbi, that are filmed all over the world, Latvia, Ireland, Australia, and sometimes their homes are in Britain, sometimes their production bases are in the States, all over the place. The world is a far, far smaller place. So acknowledging that this effort with Doctor Who, a big brand like Doctor Who, or should I say an idiosyncratic brand like Doctor Who, that is significant in the age of the Rings of Power. That's one thing. But then it also says here, Doctor Who was handed a minor bit of real estate at this centre, but its lack of front and centre placement may spin a yarn about the series' position as in the Disney priority log nearly 3 years on from the deal being struck. So it's now ensconced. It's now part of the Disney brand over there, isn't it? So, their instinct is that it had next to no presence. Is that a reflection of what's been on the last 2 or 3 months, or is it a response to what could be coming next? I suppose that's the question.
This is totally from reactions of the audience that there is no interest to it, as they arrogantly assumed there was going to be this big global uprising of massive followings for the new series of Doctor Who, and this is why they started getting arrogant and insulting people.
So do you think then, John, if season 1 had gone better, then it would have had more of a presence at this?
Absolutely, I do. Without a doubt, they would have made sure that happened, and this
because
then leads in.
For example, they haven't got. There's no more Doctor Who now for 6 months. There's no more content to sell. Or, I mean, they can direct people back to the platform, but there's nothing about to premiere. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, and the thing I was going to lead into there as well is to say this links perfectly in with why they've got a co-panel with Star Trek, because Star Trek is tanked and is not doing well. They need to save. They need to save face with Doctor Who because that's tanked. So therefore, they're going, do you know what we're going to do? We're going to do a worldwide friendship day with Star Trek and do a panel, and we'll all come together, because they know they're not going to fill it just with Doctor Who. You know, that's why, you know, we were joking at the beginning that Doctor Who has effectively got a box room at Comic-Con, haven't they? You know, for this year. It's all linked together, and it's because they see it's not success.
Yeah,
I'm amazed.
That's a very good point. That I didn't think about this, but that this was allowed to be put into Deadline Disney keeps like very, very close tabs on all their properties, and if you say a word against any of them, you're dead, mate. Right?
Yeah.
They'll
all after you. Yeah.
Yeah. So that they publish this in Deadline, I think is okay. The question is this: if Disney pulls out after season 2, which I hope they do, and is it viable for the BBC? Will the BBC get another streaming partner? But is it viable to continue without a streaming? I don't think it's viable to continue without a streaming partner, right? But it does sound like Neville. Yeah, that this seems like a lot of desperate spin by Russell to try and save the show. I think that's maybe why they're doing the Comic-Con.
But
Which, to the best of my knowledge,
think about timing. This has been put out to press just before they go to Comic-Con. Just before they're having those panels, they're going to get questions. They put this out, which is basically putting a big old question mark on pretty key bits of their future, which is streamers, Disney's involvement, and then they slip in about shooting near the end. Those are pretty big things to drop just before your big Comic-Con comeback. That's also what I've been thinking.
Just a week and a bit until Comic-Con.
Yeah.
They go on to say here, noises that it may not last beyond its initial 2 seasons are already reverberating around international TV circles, and Deadline are very well placed to pick up on that, without a doubt. One source close to the production tells us that they feel its future hangs in the balance already. Disney, the BBC, and co-producers BBC Studios and Bad Wolf all declined Deadline's interview requests for this article. So the journalist did approach all parties for their take on these rumours, which is due diligence. It's responsible reporting, I would say.
Do you know what I would say to this as well? I think RTD is probably at Madame Tussauds at the very moment getting a waxwork of himself done to be on that panel instead of himself, because he's probably scared stiff about what potentially could happen. Yeah.
Honestly, I think the change in tone of Russell T Davies interacting with the fans kicked off with the Davros skit, where it got it was like a pie in the face, and then at first you saw like this utter terror, like when they were promoting everything, and then it turned into kind of like resigned desperation by the time we got to Christmas, and now it's just like contempt that we don't love this Doctor Who. Right, that's really the vibe again, and I just don't understand why anybody thought they're going to look at Ncuti Gatwa as Doctor Who, and I was very on board for him. I just haven't found him. The only time I found him to be believable as a Doctor was when he's running over the rooftops in the church on Ruby Road. Right, that's basically it. He's never exuded the authority. I just don't understand what it is they see in him that makes them think that we're all going to go, oh my God, that's the greatest thing ever.
Rabbi, I hate to say that I believe that Russell, as well as completely ideologically captured and intellectually compromised, is plain smitten with Ncuti Gatwa. Fascinated by him either as a performer or how he looks. There's something about him. He considers him somewhat of a muse. I don't know. And we're supposed to be as in love with him, with Ncuti, not the Doctor, with Ncuti, as much as Russell clearly is. But the problem is, and that's all well and good. You know, you want the people who employ actors, Charlotte, to believe in the people that they're putting before the viewing public. But there does seem to be a massive disconnect here, and it's almost as if they're doing, I think I've used this analogy before, they're doing the lap of honour before they've actually run the race. And that's what puts people at odds, because the proof of the pudding is in the eating. We've had a season now. It's been disappointing in every respect. And I'm speaking as somebody who enjoyed big chunks of it. It has been disappointing. And so to come out sort of like the victors, just like the rabbi said, it just doesn't gel, does it? So there's all this going on in one corner, and then Deadline drop this article, which, as you say, is like a shot of pure common sense right into the heart of this topic.
But it's like, just like what you said, the fact that people in the industry are talking about like doubting what it's going to do beyond series 2, and and that's what it's hit me the most. Like I said, I read this last night, and it's sort of just been running around in my head a little bit today. Like, it's normal that fans criticise a little bit and that we speculate and we go, oh, what if this happens? What if that happens? But the fact that his peers now, by the looks of it, if we are to believe this article, are also saying the same questions.
It seems that way.
And I think that's because we've said this now. Russell of now clearly thinks he's loved. He's this beloved figure. He can't do wrong. And he thinks that's what everybody thinks about him, industry and fan alike. But it looks like the crown has slipped. If this is the talk in the industry.
But I mean,
the golden boy has finally done a dud.
Yeah.
That's the key point, isn't it? This is in actual. They say here international TV circles. These are people on the inside. And yes, I do want to repeat because people are asking about it in the live chat. Yes, sources have confirmed to us here at Type 40, Doctor Who itself has been recommissioned by BBC Studios, so season 3 is happening. But this is the question of Disney Plus's continued involvement, investment, and belief in the brand. That's a big difference. Obviously, I don't think it's necessarily a crucial one, but it is an important one that I don't think can be hand waved.
Yeah, and again, you can't say it's ignorance that they got this wrong. It's purely arrogance, as we've talked about before, because for what they put out, you're telling me that going through the dailies, seeing what was being produced, that somebody somewhere within the BBC, Bad Wolf, or at Disney didn't turn around and go, hang on a minute, this is absolute rubbish. We need to go again on this. You know, they put it out thinking we're going to make an absolute success of it, and they haven't. And they've only got themselves to blame. And we all saw it was going to happen. And this is where I get frustrated when they go at fans, because fans, 90% of the time, you get the odd idiot here and there, but 90% of the time you have fans who are they're constructively critical of a current era of a show that they love, but they will also turn round and they will praise that show if it's absolutely brilliant. Now, the fact that for the last few years it hasn't been anywhere near what it could be, that's on them. You know, they took the job. They're getting nice salaries for doing this job. So you can't turn around and have a pop at the fans and then on the other side of it, get all that money and then think that it's not your fault. It's another problem. Someone should have been gatekeeping this correctly from the start and saying that is not Doctor Who. How Rogue got through production, how that got signed off, I have absolutely no idea.
I quite agree.
And he's very horny.
Yeah.
Paul Toastland reminds us lots of shows are commissioned and then get pulled. Yes, they do. Particularly shows that are involved with Disney, strangely enough. We do have from the Deadline article, we've got this as well. They credit this to an industry source, a direct reference, Rabbi, to the amount of people who are watching this thing. Because obviously we haven't got exact metrics from Disney. They haven't published any. People are attempting to extrapolate some sort of figure, but they're nothing that I'm confident enough to go with here. But we've got this here that they credit to an industry source on Deadline, and they say the ratings are a problem. They can talk all they like about young viewers, but they're still down from the specials and down from the Jodie series. I mean, to me, the Jodie series is a few years ago. It was on a different night of the week. You know, it's not insignificant. I'm not saying it doesn't count, but I approach this, I classify this as I did in the jump between Capaldi and Whittaker, different night, different time slot. There are certain criteria. I didn't compare like for like then, so I'm not necessarily going to compare like for like now. But that distinction between the specials that were on just 7 months ago, that is absolutely bang on. And it goes on to say, I imagine serious conversations are happening. Disney will want to see results. Again, our sources here at Type 40 have told us, serious conversations are happening and have been happening since around week 3, since the very first consolidated figures started to come in on Space Babies and the Devil's Cord. They were touching cloth immediately on this, Rabbi.
Yeah, no, but the conversation started immediately as it aired, because I think it's massively underperformed, right? I think they saw. I imagine the meetings with Disney as Rusty Davis sold it and said it's going to be the biggest thing ever. All right, everybody loves Doctor Who. It's so quirky, so interesting, and now we can have it, embrace modern values and diversity and inclusion. And we have the he probably saw them on the positive message of including trans ideology, making a queer Doctor Who, and Disney was like, yes, that sounds marvelous. Oh, God, yeah, we want that, and it's going to be so big, it's going to be so successful, we're going to be the best thing ever. And it came in as and they're like, well, yes, it's all your fault, Russell.
Yeah, if you make a show that is geared towards your fringe interest groups, Charlotte, then it's not rocket science to conclude that it's going to appeal more to a fringe viewership.
What I found funny though is they're directly having like a pop at Russell with the young viewers bit, because that was his sort of defense.
It's a direct reference, isn't it?
When he was like, oh, the ratings aren't good, but the young viewers are watching. Like, that was his sort of nugget of it's all good, folks, sort of thing. So the fact that they've referenced that, and this is the fact, this is what I get the feeling of this article, that this is actually the industry actually going to Russell. You need to get better, mate. You're not as good as you thought you were.
So it's a direct response. They're paying as much attention as we are, Charlotte, and this is a direct response to a culture of bullshit that's sort of grown up around the show in the last 2 or 3 months.
Yeah, and like compare that to what I understand what you meant about the Whittaker, but I think actually that's substantial as well, because we all said this. Russell coming back was meant to save this show. It was meant to get interest back. It was meant to reinvent the brand. It was meant to bring life back to it. And if he can't even get as good a figures or better, like as Jodie, I think that is.
I think, to be honest, I think it's of less relevance when it comes to ratings. Where I think the Jodie stuff really comes into focus is as regards popular appeal. What they used to call zeitgeist, is that word in popular use anymore? I'm not entirely sure, but that kind of momentum, that event status, feeling of that this is something that everybody needs to see again. To me, the fact that hasn't been regenerated is actually the biggest failure on Russell's part in relation to the Whittaker era.
I would say the viewing figures are a part.
They are important. They are a component part of it.
Let's not like kid ourselves here a little bit. The viewing figures for Jodie's run was something that got that production out. It's what got them eventually packing their bags. Like Chibnall, I can't remember if it was Chibnall or one of the producers, basically said it was going to get cancelled. It was at one point canceled. They weren't going to carry it on.
I think we broke that news here at Type 40 Live. The show was cancelled. It was completely taken out of production. It was entirely closed down. Allegedly, Chris Chibnall was fired, and the option to pick up Jodie Whittaker's contract, they had an option on her, but it was declined. So yes, things weren't got as bad as they could.
Eventually, consequences caught up with them, that crew, but it took them 3 series. It's taken Russell 1 series to now get serious conversations, to get Disney on his door if we had to believe this, to get the fan basic reaction to be, I'm not going to bother to watch the next series. That's my point. Elevated. It seems like what Chibnall did took time. This feels like it's been sped up almost.
Well,
I think that's
nothing happens. Nothing happens in a Nothing happens in a bubble, and you can't push reset on something like this and expect it to go right the way back. But I think you could expect. No, I don't. Not with a brand like Doctor Who. I think Rabbi, I think but there'd also been no Star Wars for quite a long time, and it was going to a different medium. So there was curiosity, and there was, and I also think that Mandalorian. Yeah, but people again, it was very much a damp. No, it had been a couple of years, I think, since a film, but the fact that it had gone to television and had never been on television before, the fact that it was promoted certainly in Britain, it was promoted in quite a muted way. Not that many people saw it, so I don't think it's the same.
I know. I think if you make something good that people will like. Came out in 2019. When was the Rise of Skywalker?
What I'm saying is, Rabbi, we can't. I think it was unlikely that by 2023, just over a year since the last Whittaker episode, that the people would have had all thoughts of that banished from their heads. The car crash of the Whittaker era. You know, Simon Horton always says that they should have took it off for 5 years, so that people would forget the pain.
The normies stopped watching it. They didn't care. If you put something good, right? If you put something entertaining and something that grabbed people and it was fun and a great, like it was in 2005, right? If you did that in this like age of dross on TV, it would have been huge.
The thing is though, it wasn't just the TV show they were sick of. They were sick of the conversation around it as well. It has become so. I believe it had become so polluted with you can't, when the show is labelled in the tabloids as the wokest show on TV, the most PC show on TV. It had become a standing joke to more people. It had become a standing joke to more people than were actually watching it.
And they could have dispelled that with that first special. But instead, they made the fundamental error of the fundamental reason for the failure of this era is it's the queer era of Doctor Who. When you make anything a queer show, then it's about being queer.
No, I'm not arguing otherwise. That's undoubtedly true. But if you notice, the viewing figures for those 3 specials were still really quite strong, and they did.
Yeah, because they
held.
expected it to be good, and it fell off. And look, they saw the Star Beast, right? And you had all the woke stuff in there, the pronouns, the Yasmin Finney, and look, it came at the wrong time. People had enough of it having this ideology forced down our throat at that time.
A lot of them were still there. A lot of them were still there for Christmas Day for Shooty's first episode as well.
Yeah, and then they bailed.
I think
it didn't do the trick.
I think also for me though, if I was pitching a new show like season 1 to an executive at say Disney or at another studio, and they said, right, okay, what you got? Put in Ncuti Gatwa to the side, because I've said I'm not a fan of Ncuti Gatwa's portrayal of the Doctor, but they would say, okay, well, what have you got for season 1? And they go, right, what monsters have you got then? They go, wow, we've got a bogeyman, we've got a giant snail, and then we've got a dog sat on top of a TARDIS having a wee.
And a bloke in a dress.
Yeah, exactly. And again, Doctor Who, as much as you talk about the Doctor, is as much watched for its monsters and its villains. That season 1 had no monsters or villains that were at all interesting.
You kept telling us it was going to be the greatest monster ever, right? There was no monster. Billy Gibbs was supposed to be 40 when she looked like she was 22.
and he kept doing it as well.
Giving her a double chin.
So just as a reminder, I mean, this was the thing, wasn't it? This is the big ticket. The big ticket. Initially, the big key in the door was the big guy himself, was Russell T Davies, and him coming back to the show after all that period of time, all the hope that came with that. We got very, very excited here on the show. I think most of fandom did as well. But it was a question of, okay, so we've got the guy that we wanted in our wildest dreams. We hoped he was going to come back. How are they going to back it up? What's he got? What tools has he got in his arsenal, apart from his proven talent at the time? And it breaks it all down here in Deadline. They say Russell T Davies was paired with a Disney-driven budget boost that well-connected sources have estimated more than doubled the show's per-ep investment to around the 10 million pounds mark. Wow. Me too, Matt. Me too. That's a far greater figure than I think the one we'd seen before. And Deadline, if they're quoting these figures, they're probably pretty sure about them. So we're looking at 10 million per episode, and the deal itself was valued at around 100 million. Matt, does that sound like what you'd expect? 100 million? The entire deal?
Absolutely. No, I honestly thought that was costing them about 5 million. I'm wondering whether, I know that there was a little bit more money spent than the last time, but I didn't expect that much, especially with it being, because that's 20 million Australian dollars. So that's wow, that we could only dream of spending that much money on per episode. Episode for the entire series, yeah, possibly, but not per episode. No way.
But
not even half of that.
If you look at those numbers, this is cheap for Disney. They just spent 280 million on the Acolyte.
Yeah.
Really?
280 million on that.
Yeah.
230, wasn't it?
No, I believe it was 280. That's what I read.
Oh, 280. Today. Whoa.
because they shot it 3 times, so they didn't know what they were doing.
They did.
You know, they see Doctor Who something they're only going to shoot once. They're like, "What a bargain!" Which is why it's 100 million as opposed to they got how much content for 100 million? They got the 4 specials and 8 episodes. They're doing very well for that.
Well, the deal is for, I believe. No, I did have this figure. I think the deal was for 16. No, that can't be right because I think the deal was for 20 episodes. If you remember, they weren't involved. They weren't involved with the budget for the anniversary specials. That was already in place. They came on board afterwards. So we're looking at the two seasons of 8 and a couple of specials. And
Spin-offs.
looks like a spin-off, which we'll come to in a little while. But the deadline goes on to say it's an unprecedented scenario whereby, and we noted this as well. Well, how? Surely this means that, and that means this, and how will this work? Because Disney don't do that. They would never do this, would they? Well, it seems they have made an exception when it comes to the BBC and Doctor Who. It says it's an unprecedented scenario whereby BBC Studios owns the Doctor Who brand and oversees international sales, but Bad Wolf holds the production contract. So Disney are not anywhere near any of those things. No matter how many times we say this on Type 40 Live, I have loads of comments about this, but no, Disney are not involved in that at all. They cannot cancel Doctor Who, but unprecedented. So despite the fact that the budget there that's up on screen, still to kind of bend rules a little and norms for Doctor Who, it does imply a certain amount of belief in the intellectual property, Charlotte, in the domestic appeal, the international potential appeal. So I think Disney, okay, yeah, they're a faceless, arguably morally bankrupt corporation, but they didn't intend on tanking this thing, did they?
No, that money to me shows actually they thought they could get some revenue back off this. They thought it's either going to give us subscriber numbers or it's going to be a good viewing figure thing for us. Those two are the metrics they care about. With
and they're desperate as well because everything else is tanking.
And I was going to say, and if you think about when this deal was like hashed out, so many of their sort of more genre-based stuff was dying off. Like anything that wasn't just the traditional brands, like the princess stuff, or like the kids stuff, like the stuff, anything that was a bit more geek or genre or anything outside, they were just desperately like clinging to because it was all dying. So they probably thought Doctor Who could be a bit of a positive for them. That's what they thought coming in. Because think about it, they don't have to do all the setup of the production. They don't have to do the writing. They don't have to hire all the staff. Bad Wolf's doing all that for them. They're just seeing it as we'll either get, like I said, viewing figures or subs, and that's all they wanted. And also, I think David said in the chat before, that must have put Russell under a bit of a, if you want the money, Russell, you need to give us something back. And now he has to pay it back, and it's not what they expected.
Disney Plus haven't been drawn on the figures, Matt. All we have from this article, even from the industry sources inside, is that Disney say the numbers, which they haven't disclosed, are okay, but not stellar.
Roughly translated as ooh.
That means they're shockingly bad.
Yeah, there is that rumor that Doctor Who was part of them purchasing it as a double act with Bluey because they really wanted Bluey. So if you're aware of that one,
Bluey is over next year though, isn't it? They got one more season of that, and
they needed to retain that show, didn't they, Matt? It's probably the biggest TV show in the world.
I honestly don't see that finishing anytime soon. Australia is just about to reveal a theme park, Bluey theme park.
Wow, really?
And yeah, absolutely. They've got the house built and everything. It's going to be massive. This is in Queensland. And it's because of the Queensland government was actually part of the funding for Bluey. So and that's the reason why it's all set in Queensland. So it's massive. And I know how much Disney is already affecting that from my colleagues. Apparently they are editing Bluey quite substantially cutting it for American audiences or children or whatever. So yeah, they really wanted Bluey, and I think that this was part of a package deal. You want Bluey because BBC owned Bluey as well; they're co-producers of it too. So I really think that they said we want Bluey, and they said, well, will you take it with Doctor Who? And so I think that was part of the deal. It'll all come out in the wash at some point, but
no, it won't. They'll never admit to anything ever.
We do get a lengthy portion in this where they remind us that Doctor Who was the most in-demand UK originating show with US audiences during the early release. So yes, America got it before everybody else at a decent hour, although it didn't have enormous competition in this realm. So it says that Bridgerton counts as a US show, whilst, well, you see, I never know really, even though Bridgerton's made in the UK and most of the people who are in it are British, it's an American show. Whilst Baby Reindeer had been out for a month by the time Doctor Who launched, so they don't count. It says it reached a high of 7th on Disney's list of most in-demand series, but that was obviously trailing the likes of The Simpsons and the Star Wars and that whole family of shows.
Worse than The Acolyte? Because The Acolyte's supposed to be doing like epically badly.
Yeah, it's terrible, isn't it?
That quote that we got, stellar, but okay, but not stellar. And then we have this, that it reached a high of 7th on Disney's list. That's a big, that's a big platform. I was amazed it got into the top 10. Despite my belief in it and my excitement for it, I had no idea what to expect on this platform. It's a completely different ballgame from BBC One and even the iPlayer. So I don't think that's actually too bad at all. I can see why they would consider it okay. But when you start breaking things down there to most in-demand UK originating show, do people discriminate what they watch based on where it originates, Rabbi? I don't think they do.
No, they don't. But look, I think it's very, okay. While BBC Studios owns the rights of Doctor Who and Bad Wolf is producing it, it's very clear, I think, from the distribution strategy that Disney is the most important partner in this equation, because it was released to its massive detriment with this like ridiculous rollout on Friday 7:00 New York time, where if they had any sense whatsoever, it would have been live. They would premiere it on iPlayer and the BBC at the same time.
Well, mate, it started before that. Russell wanted the entire season to go out from January through to the end of February. Right. It was Disney Plus that made them push it back.
Have they done that? I agree with you.
Do you know what?
Yeah.
I was going to say, do you know what another critical mistake they made as well? They sacrificed potentially trying to generate an audience in the UK by pushing it more to the US market when it came out, because the marketing was for that.
So much better, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I get that you want to grow it worldwide, but the first thing you do is you take care of your existing and try and build on that and where it's actually originated from. Then you go from there.
That's not fair, John. They did have the double-decker bus.
No, but I think
I saw it, mate.
How more British can you get?
I couldn't get on, all right? I couldn't get on it.
It wasn't fast enough.
Yeah.
I think
these little legs.
Though, okay, but not stellar. In the streaming market, things need to be hits. They can't just be okay. They need to be talked about. They need to have the viewing figures being racked incredibly high. Because if you're just okay, you can get forgotten. Yeah. You can get thought, I'll watch that later, or I'll watch it next week. And then by the time the second series comes around, you think, Doctor Who's back. I might watch it. Like, that's the okay reaction. Whereas if you're excited, if it's top of your list, if you can't wait for the next episode, you're engaged. That's what streaming is all about, engagement.
I hate to say we've got a few people who aren't as engaged with current popular culture as they could be, including Paul Toastland, who asks, who the F is Bluey? Paul, you need to get some Bluey in your life. Richard Brooks says Bluey.
Kids, mate.
Bluey is a charming children's show, says Richard Brooks.
I love it.
And Dixie Normus says, I've enjoyed the odd Bluey in the past. Thanks, Dixie. Never gets off that joke.
It's a great thing when it happens, let me tell you.
David Jenkins can't believe it got to 7th in that list of Netflix.
But you know what? Again, if they
Netflix, Disney Plus
at 7 p.m. globally on Saturday, right? They would have made global event viewing for
no question.
And like it's just the insanity of how they rolled this out. That every creative decision has been a bad one, right?
Yeah,
pretty much. It's I actually like if I compare Shooter's first season to Flux, I think there's more merit in Flux than there is in Shooty season 1.
Let's not get carried away, mate.
I mean, okay,
let's not get ahead of ourselves. Jodie Whittaker. Huh?
Yeah, no,
Jodie Whittaker.
Good, right?
We're not going down that road again.
But no, I mean, like I think that if we're talking about these episodes, you can go, well, I like this bit of it, and I like that bit of it, like that. If I do that to Flux, there's more I liked in that. I like the cliffhangers much better. The resolutions were awful, right? I like a lot of the design work. I like the Sontarans. I like Carvanista. And again, Shooty was awful. Like I'm not Shooty. Jodie was awful. Shooty was just naff. Okay, so it's.
Naff. Yeah. Yes, bring back the word naff. I do agree.
I mean, Matt, I was going to ask you actually, in Australia, do you think to start with on this season, if it hadn't have been signed up to Disney Plus, that more people would have watched it in Australia than they did on Disney Plus, or would it have been just
Not at all.
the same? Is it just dead over there, or?
By the end of the last era, it was pretty much it only had like its core fans. That was it. Nobody of a night would watch it. Like, you know, if they were going to watch a thing, they'd probably watch it afterwards or whatever, a murder mystery or something like that. But it was dead. It was dead. And I mean, even now with it being shown on Disney Plus, people watching it at 9 a.m., a lot of the people were watching it at 9 a.m. in the morning on a Saturday because they wanted to get it before all spoilers and everything got released.
Yeah.
And it just I can see people not watching it after that initial first couple of hours, you know? So, and plus, not every home has Disney Plus. So, whereas with ABC, we're very much like the BBC, where it's in every home if you pay a license fee, you know? Whereas we don't pay a license fee, so we actually have more people being able to view it. And it just wasn't, you know, I mean, we were lucky if we were getting, you know, I think around 60, 70,000 watching the actual airing for the era of Miss Whittaker. So, you know, things were looking pretty bad. I know that the figures were really, really low, and it was dire. You know, so and like I said, people have been putting in the chat about the ABC actually co-producing it.
Yeah, I've got a comment here. This is from Tony Farrell. Hi, Tony. Big T himself back in the house. Can I get away with saying the house? I probably can't. I'll gloss over that one. People won't notice, John. Tony Farrell says, if Disney do drop the program, where will it go? Would, for example, Australia's ABC take it back again? So could they re-establish links with former international co-producers, I suppose, is the general question. You know, whether it be ABC in Australia or previous partners in other territories, like over in Canada. It's a reasonable question.
They don't want to do that. They want to have a streaming partner. And my guess is if Disney drops it, then Amazon or Netflix will pick it up.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Or Pluto TV. Could have a Pluto TV channel.
Pluto's not picking up in it.
Tubi would do it.
Services.
I am all for bringing back the word naff, get naff back into popular parlance. I think Stephen Braddock, he agrees there in the live chat on YouTube. Moving on.
I'm too old.
Moving on, we've got this one. So they also claim at Deadline, one of our sources close to the production believes Disney will need to make a decision on its future relationship with the show soon after the war between the land and the sea wraps, which it should be around Christmas, late January. But as I'm hearing, so as soon as the spin-off wraps, and that this could have a bearing on how long the in-demand actor Ncuti Gatwa remains in that lead role. Again, they claim here that Disney will need to make a decision on its future relationship with Doctor Who sooner rather than later. Ncuti at the moment, he's going into the importance of being Ernest Disney in the autumn. He's locked into that for the rest of 2024. Then it's right back to filming on Doctor Who season 3. So Disney, this does line up with Disney being sort of all in or all out before a certain point.
I thought that's why they built the waxwork, so that they can replace with the waxwork.
Yeah, we haven't got time for the waxwork on this one tonight.
Well, I was going to say,
I don't think the waxwork is smiling. Why is he crying?
well,
That's what I thought.
if you're an exec at Disney, what you want is that waxwork placed in your office for a few months, just smiling at you to make a decision on whether you retain or not.
I will
going into Russell's office, to be honest.
So obviously, the claim here is that Ncuti Gatwa is an in-demand actor.
He was an extra in Barbie. He was in Masters of the Air, and you couldn't, if you blink and you missed him. Right?
He was at the Oscars, though, Rabbi. Come on.
No, I think he is a little like cursed puppy. He's black and he's gay, and people are like, look at my black gay friend. I'm so progressive.
Oh no, he's not gay. He's queer.
Yeah, everything's queer.
I must admit, and you know that I'm not. I'm probably the most. I'm the most even-handed as regards Ncuti on the regular panel here. I like a lot of what he was doing, the stuff he did that I didn't like. I really disliked. So I'm undecided about Ncuti Gatwa, but I have to say I do think there is something tokenistic about the way that they treat him, about the way that he's spoken about and paraded around. I don't think it's the actor's fault. I think it's the culture that exists within the entertainment industry at the moment, and he's a very willing accomplice. I think mostly because he doesn't strike me as the sharpest knife in the box, which is, that's fine.
He's
not everybody.
Ncuti still quite young in the industry at this point. He's still quite young in his career. He's sort of still at the beginning of it. And I agree with you. It's weird with Ncuti's Doctor. I feel like on one hand, they praise him, they say he's amazing, they're really proud of him. And then on the other hand, they put stuff in the show which is making his Doctor look bad, which is weakening his Doctor, which is making his Doctor sort of hero-like.
To hand that man a script like Rogue from writers that aren't writers, Kate Herron and Bryony Redmond, and then expect him to try and resist his excesses. I'm not even talking about the content of the episode itself. I'm talking about what he did with the performance in that, because it was not only was it all resoundingly awful, but it was nothing like the Doctor. It was nothing like the character he'd been playing for 4 or 5 weeks up to that point. By then, it's so reckless. It's so distasteful.
Yeah, but it's not just even that. I'm sorry, in your finale, you've got that scene, and afterwards I was just like, that is unforgivable. That you've got your Doctor, your main character, your hero we're meant to believe he's going to save the day, stood there with his mouth wide open, just being frozen at the look of Sutek. And it wasn't like it's a new villain. He knows Sutek. He's dealt with Sutek. And he stood there going, It's just like, why are you having your main character like that?
Remind us of Pyramids of Mars when you're putting out Dross.
And then it got better. Yeah. The next episode, what's he doing? Bonnie, like the 6
Bonnie.
I love her, but however old she is, gets his hand and literally leads him out the building.
I like you lot.
The thing that Eccleston did when we first introduced him was Rose, right? Rose, it was Rose, right? And she's about to be mashed by the Aldrons, and his hand grabs her. He's like, "Run!" Right? Bonnie Langford did that to Judy. What the hell? I rewrote the scene.
I'm not having this. Look, I get on with you all really well, and I'm not happy with the fact that you are knocking that episode when we had the best conclusion to saving the world ever, where he got the spoon out and put it into a TV screen. That is groundbreaking.
And then took it
Yeah.
Oh,
that's
it was dragging the throughout the vortex, bringing death.
Save the universe. Save the universe with cutlery. The article then goes on to mention, it goes on to elaborate here, although the next season has wrapped, the same source predicts the final episode has actually been left open-ended, with the possibility remaining that Gatwa could regenerate into his successor if he chooses to exit. This is where I think we drift more into speculation here, because for all we know, there are any one of a number of reasons that Russell could have ended that season on a cliffhanger. Most seasons of his Doctor Who do sort of end on cliffhangers that lead into the Christmas specials that follow afterwards. I was sort of expecting us to get one a few weeks ago. I mean, some people claim that it was. I wouldn't call that a cliffhanger myself. So again, I think this is a bit of a reach, shall we say, but it's only fair to say that because the rest of the article is, fairly, as I say, very somber, very considered, very reasonable, you can't write this off either. You'd be foolish to.
I will be surprised if Rusty David goes forward without shooting Gatwa as a Doctor in the third season. Right? I think for him, shooting Gatwa is this new era of Doctor Who.
Yeah,
I think
there won't be any new unless he goes.
They have got an option. They've got an option on him. They've got an option on him for a third season, and he does intend on returning, so I'm told.
See, but my thought is, I agree with you. There's no source saying this at all, so it does come across as a little bit of they're sort of looking at the lay of the land. They're looking at the reaction to the series, where the series is right now, and they're sort of going, "Oh, maybe if Ncuti decides to go." And then a bit of me thinks, actually, if I sort of try and think in Ncuti's head for a minute, I think there's a good argument for him wanting to leave this production. Because we know, for example, he's been told that he can't do stuff he wants. He wanted to have a set costume. You talked about that.
Yeah.
He had quite a good idea, by the looks of it, what his set costume was.
Yeah.
And he got told, no, you're not doing that. And then that's my other thought. Think about the series in general, writing-wise, and this is why I was like, I could see a possibility of Ncuti maybe thinking, maybe I need to go before it does any more damage to me. If you think about that series...
I don't think he's that clever.
No, but I'm just thinking...
His agent might be, though, Charlotte.
Yeah, people around him might be saying stuff to him. Because, let's be fair, look at that series in general, the series writing I'm saying now for the Doctor. Not a single episode really seemed to be the showcase for Ncuti's Doctor. Do you know who did get a good showcase?
Boom could have been, but it didn't really work out that way.
No, but do you know who got a really good showcase? And everybody was raving about her and saying, look, this episode, the writing's not good, but the acting is good. Millie got 173 yards. Nobody has said that about Ncuti.
She's a standout winner of this era. She's got great exposure. Great exposure, and then
if only
you've got to get out the failing show and get booked into I think the Patent Place.
The Forsyth Saga is the role she's going on to next. They did, but again, Deadline did follow up on this. They approached Ncuti, but Gatwa's agents hadn't responded to Deadline's request for comment by the time the article went to press yesterday. So I don't know how long they would have given them. I think it's customary to give them, actually it's a good 3 or 4 days, isn't it? Maybe even longer.
Yeah, they'll just get a token response, won't they, from the press team?
Yeah, they
Yeah, but
I
reckon
they're going to turn around and go, well, he doesn't have anything to do with this production anymore, so we can't comment.
Well,
I can't do that.
I reckon he'll go for season 3, and they'll just use the waxwork for season 3. Just do some voiceovers, and you'll be like, "How can you tell the difference?"
They could do it with AI.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll need subtitles for that one too, John.
Yeah.
Obviously, generally speaking, we know
I
only
did that
too
last
well.
season.
We know only too well through following pop culture and this franchise in particular at Type 40 Live that agents never comment on this stuff. Do we? We've had this time and time again, haven't we, Matt? Where we say they won't speculate, they won't be drawn it. There's no quote. There's no this. There's no that. There's no the other. There's NDAs, and they, if that was true, they'd want to be lining up their next job for their clients as well, wouldn't they, Rabbi?
It's like when they want to talk
Yes.
to a politician
Again, I
or
think that's what
something. You know?
Millie Gibson's did. Dan, and everybody on the panel, everybody in the chat, I'm going to thank you very much, but it's like coming up to 11:30 for me. About to turn into a pumpkin. Another one.
Thank you for your company, Rabbi.
Yeah,
so
good to see you.
People can find you on your YouTube channel, can't they? And follow you on social media. So
or in the gutter doing obscene things, you know.
Where?
Where I normally am. Hey, a little bit, everybody.
good night, Rabbi. Thanks for joining us.
But I just find it interesting that he's got one series out, and now we've put in an article that he could be going. That's all I'm saying. I just find that interesting.
Well, they were doing that all the time with Jodie, though, as well, weren't they?
But no, the fans were doing that.
Oh, okay.
The actual press weren't.
Out of desperation.
I was out.
Yeah, the fans, I think, were wishing it every series, to be honest. But the actual deadline and the likes of that, they weren't saying it. The fact that somebody like Deadline, do
you know what?
Said this as a possibility.
As much as I don't like Shooty, what I would say is what amazes me with these execs, and they're the people that eventually leak it to these papers anyway, in these magazines, is they'll go, it's not quite working, we need a new doctor. Instead of actually going, well, maybe we need to look at the writing. Because that's a critical problem. As much as I'm not a fan of Shooty, you can't lay it all at his door because the writing has been so terrible. That needs to be stepped up.
It's not only the writing; it's the fact that there's a fatigue there already. When they brought the show back, there was already a fatigue, and with the actual show itself, there's nothing unique about it anymore. It's lost its uniqueness. It's like every other show now, and
It has become like every other show on TV, Matt. I completely agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
It's tragic.
it just doesn't interest me anymore. I mean, when I look at it, when I look at the stills and stuff like that, there was someone spoiled a Shooty wearing some sort of suit with a bowler hat and that, and I didn't care. I was like, I don't care about this. I don't, it doesn't interest. I'm out, and that's really sad.
It is. Yeah.
I'm just like, oh, please, just please do us a favor. And I never ever thought I'd be saying that. Please just do us a favor and put it out of its misery, please, and put us out of our misery, because it's just yeah.
And it's like historicals, isn't it? I mean, historicals in Doctor Who. I always love a historical Doctor Who. But when you talk about like episodes like Rogue, and they talked about, this is the Bridgerton episode coming, it's got to that point now where I'm like, straight away in my head, I'm like, do you know, I'm not going to enjoy this one because it's not going to be about a historical. It's going to be some sort of...
You start to weigh up the probabilities. Okay, how bad could this conceivably be? You think, what are the things that I really, really hate the most about Bridgerton?
Yeah.
How far could they potentially turn that up? And you think, well, okay, so what would be my tolerance? What would I accept? And then you kind of work it. And that's the way a man would tend to look at these things. But who are we? We're just a fan base.
It's like Mark of the Rani. I love Mark of the Rani, and I know there's a tree that's a pantomime tree in it and everything. But I love it. I love the historical elements. I love the engagement with the characters. It's great. But like Bridgerton episode for Rogue, I'm like, oh, they danced and they kissed. Okay, right. Great.
You know what was the old expression for people on the old Outpost Gallifrey message board? Ignore the rat. I'm not sure what the rat would be in that episode. I'd hate to think there's something small and furry peeking out from here or there. So they didn't ask any fans anything in this Deadline article, though. We've got quotes there from industry insiders and sources, Matt. So they didn't go to any fans as such. Well, that's what I'm coming to now. That's my bridge to this bit.
Yeah, gotcha.
But we have got a couple of representatives sort of. So first of all, yes, I have got it. I have got the bit that you think. Okay, so first of all, let's give him a day in court. This is Jason Quinn, current editor of Doctor Who magazine. I've never met Jason. He seems like a fun sort of guy. Wears some very colourful clothes, like the strides, Jason, and he's very front-facing as editor of Doctor Who magazine. I think he took it over about a year ago, and he revels in it, shall we say, Jason. And he said, what's great about Doctor Who is that it can kind of do anything, and that's what this season did more than the others. He said each episode was so different in tone. I struggle to think of any other family show that attracts so much discussion. He's certainly right about that. I can't think of any TV show that attracts more discussion than Doctor Who.
In a bad way, yeah.
Good or bad or indifferent. I think the conversations around it, sincerely, more than any other show. And he's right. Most of the episodes did have a different tone, which is kind of what I've always enjoyed about new Doctor Who. I think that's the good news. I think that I'd argue that the original new Doctor Who had episodes that were different in tone, but felt like they were still belonging to one another, and that's something that was missing this year. But I appreciate where Jason's coming from, and that he's trying to sort of stand up for the show here. Yeah, of course. And but the idea that that's what this season did more than others, this is where I don't know where Jason's head's at with that one.
What he's saying there in a really nice way, because he's the editor of Doctor Who magazine, is it was a mess. Like, that's the nice way of saying it was everywhere. That too. Do you know what? Like, that's literally each episode was so different, which means it didn't have an identity. Is what we've been talking about. They didn't connect to each other, and the idea that it could do anything, which basically means you've got no boundaries.
Do you know what?
Also, major issue with the first series.
Do you know what, that picture of Jason there, that is literally just after he's written that, and he's going, I'm taking my Dalek and I'm going in the panic room for a few days.
He goes on to say, now, it's one thing to make that statement. I don't think that's necessarily far off the mark, but I am really puzzled by this. He said that when Doctor Who came back in 2005, having been off air since the late 80s, it wasn't a massive overnight success, and there wasn't Doctor Who mania immediately. That's Jason Quinn, editor of Doctor Who magazine. Jason, that's completely and utterly wrong, my friend. I don't know if you were living in a cave at the time, but Doctor Who was a massive next to overnight success. It was hugely significant. It was the most important, most successful relaunch, certainly in British TV history, maybe even global TV history. And how do you qualify overnight success? Look, by week 3, people could not wait for each episode of this. It had turned on so many people to it. The Chris Eccleston saga going on around it, that helped as well. It put it in the papers. But no, Jason, with respect, Doctor Who was a massive overnight success in 2005, and I can't believe your memory's that short.
I know that was big in Britain, but here it reverberated, like literally from the night that it aired. As soon as we heard that it was a massive hit, everybody knew about it, and like the ABC couldn't wait to get hold of the series, and because they knew people were pirating it and crossing the seas. It was huge, and we knew it was huge, and we couldn't wait, and neither could the ABC when it was finally broadcast. So it wasn't like America where it was it took a year, I think, for them to actually start having it.
Because in all fairness, Matt, our experiences can differ, can't they, all over the world? And even individuals can have different experiences. But it's in all sincerity, this was a show with a multi-generational appeal absolutely immediately. And I have no idea how anyone, let alone the editor of Doctor Who magazine, could have missed that, or it just slipped his mind. And at 19 years...
I think the internet, even though it was still in its infancy as far as, broadband and all that sort of thing, it actually gave us a connection so that we could actually, like I said, people were getting a hold of this before it was even aired here and that sort of thing. And it was in its infancy, and we could see and watch all the promos. We could watch, and legally, and we could watch, the BBC radio broadcasts that they'd have, talking about the show and everything. That sort of streaming was coming in, and it was phenomenal. It was a phenomenon.
Yeah, but also
completely.
What it did is, like, my age when 2005 happened, I was like 11 or 12. I had no back history on Doctor Who. I didn't watch Classic. I wasn't around when Classic was on telly. So it had to grab me that first week. And ever since that episode of Rose, I can remember the feeling. And it wasn't just me, because playgrounds, you talk to your friends, you see, you especially back then more when it comes to TV, you would. I can remember after watching that Rose, I was like, I'm watching this now every week. And so many kids the day afterwards, or Monday, that Monday, everybody was talking about Doctor Who if you were that age. That has not happened this time. That's why it's a success overnight, because it grabbed the younger audience successfully, not what Russell's banging on about. And then it got the new audience, but then the older audience that's already there, established, could also see the merit of it. So it got twofold of audience. But I just find it funny that now they're trying to downplay it, because this one hasn't gone as well as they thought so.
I wonder, is Jason deliberately trying to downplay this out of, I don't know, out of some sort of loyalty?
Got magazines to sell.
Yeah,
it's a strange thing to say,
probably
Jason.
Pressing.
Obviously, if Jason, if you're watching, Jason Quinn there from Doctor Who magazine, not meant to be any kind of slight, and if you'd like to come and talk to us about it and explain your experience with Doctor Who back in 2005, because we've got a few mutual friends, I'd be very interested to hear you elaborate on that. But with respect, my friend, a lot of people in the live chat completely disagree. In fact, everybody does. It was a success as soon as it started, says TARDIS Travels. Massive success, and captured an entire audience, me included. So David Jenkins at Fly Highland, one of our younger audience members here, says, I remember it immediately being a massive success. It was huge in 2005 from day one. Says Lord, thought this is resounding. Experiences can differ, I accept, but this is a bizarre claim, and I must admit that did stand out. He also went on to say, this one, I don't like this. I have to say, I don't like this. He says some of the problems with he's asked about wokeness, and what does he think about the allegations that the show is too woke, as prioritizing identity politics and any kind of political content over entertainment value. And they asked Jason that question, they put that to him, and all he said was that if people have a problem with gay people or trans people, then yes, they are not going to like the show. But in the scripts, it didn't feel like a big deal.
Did he watch Rogue?
Oh my God.
I was going to say,
he becomes a leering homosexual, for God's sake.
No, Matt, it's more than that. He becomes a leering sexual predator. It's not even about his orientation. It's behaviour. It's a betrayal of the character. And again, with respect, Jason, I think effectively saying that this is a problem with the audience that's a ship that's not going to sail. I really dislike shining this light on Doctor Who viewers and Doctor Who magazine readers. Even though I know this was in Deadline rather than your own publication, but really this leaves a bad taste in my mouth in particular. Nobody who has a problem. No. Let me finish. Right. Nobody who has a problem with that material, that political and identity politics material, necessarily has a problem with gay people or T people or anybody else. This is a straw man argument, Matthew Pott.
I mean, the fact of the matter is, there's no that he says that that lost my train of thought now. Thanks, Dan. But yeah, sorry, John, you go.
No, I was just going to say what I would say to that as well is you will never find, and I'm talking as well about the British public, a more tolerant people than the British public. You get the odd exceptions, but generally...
That's why comments like this piss me off.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, Jason, but they do.
And I would say as well, this is what I've said before about the production team and the people involved with it. And when you see comments like this, they're 3 years behind the time, because it was only 48 hours ago where Microsoft announced through the presses that they are laying off their DEI department because it is no longer business critical. And that says to you, and it's happening in a lot of companies, and it is because these corporations realise that people aren't remotely interested in it and they're getting fed up with it. So the fact is, you can write engaging characters and you can have that in there, but they're not writing engaging characters and having them in there. That's the problem.
I remember what I was going to say now.
Go on. Sorry, man.
No, you're right. I think Doctor Who now has crossed a line that cannot be uncrossed. People in the back of their minds will be going, will he have a relationship with his companion? You know, or similar ilk, you know, will we be seeing this more often, you know, in every episode where
the show kind of revolves around.
It's going to be like Captain Kirk, you know.
No, I agree. It's as if the show now revolves around as its top priority, not adventure storytelling, but that kind of relationship content, emotional content, and even sexual content. And it doesn't matter, the orientation of the sexual content doesn't matter. That doesn't matter at all. It's that level of storytelling.
Watch it.
No, but it's like,
It's not suitable for a family audience. And Jason's the one who mentions that he distinctly mentions its category as a family show. Charlotte,
but the other part of that, it didn't feel like a big deal in the script. Did you listen to half the script when it was being said on screen?
It was obviously not a big deal for the gentleman, but it was for a majority of people, clearly.
In Star Beast, I'm sorry, we literally got the whole resolution to the Star Beast was the fact that Rose was trans. That was the actual plot. That was how they resolved it. You had the pronoun scene when we literally had an alien being do a pronoun speech and have Rose have a go at the Doctor, when you literally had Donna and Rose say, well, it's a shame you're not a woman anymore. I'm sorry, that's not a big deal, is it, in the script now? When we've had so many instances of just the script coming to a grounding halt for Russell to go, here's my politics. And like I said, Rogue was just the whole episode was that a Doctor can literally get their companion nearly killed and he doesn't care until the last bit of the episode when he gets all teary because he's realised he's almost got his companion dead.
Yeah.
Happily, there was some sense and reason in the equation. It came from Tony Jordan. Tony Jordan is the coordinator of the Doctor Who Appreciation Society, the official Doctor Who Appreciation Society. So whilst Doctor Who magazine operates under license from the BBC, so perhaps Jason has got a certain line to toe there and a defence to run, which I do understand professionally the position that he could be in. Tony, it's not that different. Doctor Who Appreciation Society, it could carry on without the BBC's endorsement, encouragement, or however you want to describe it. But Tony's been a guest on the show. He was on the podcast a few months ago, and he makes this statement talking about the last season. He says, I thought it was a mixed bag. When Russell's return was announced, I thought, that's fantastic. But maybe I remembered the good stuff and chose to forget the not-so-good stuff. His track record of ending seasons with two-parters has been widely varying in success, for example. So it's very pragmatic, very even-handed, very reasonable, and absolutely sounding like a fan. Tony Jordan, obviously a coordinator of the Doctor Who Appreciation Society, very responsible. The things that he accomplishes, the convention not that long ago was fantastic. He's an adult, Tony, but here he is making a statement that's very even-handed, very mature, and a take it or leave it kind of comment, exactly the kind of thing that I would say.
Yeah, I think that's the right thing to say, but I would say that the trouble you've got now, and this is the trouble with certainly magazines, this is why a lot more people are going online and people are watching shows like Type 40, because you might not agree, but you can have a discussion and a reasonable debate about it. Whereas you read a magazine now, unfortunately, and you get the party line that is presented to you, but then you can get comments like that put towards you as well. And you're like, oh, great. You know, I've spent how much is it now? 5-6 quid for a magazine. And I basically, you know, someone's commented about me because I didn't like the show or like the iteration of the show, where you don't get that online. You can get it in certain places, but a lot of the online places, there's a discussion about it, and there's never any hate. I don't see any hate. It's just criticism of a show that underperformed.
No.
Yeah.
And it's certainly not on any grounds of anything to do with any kind of phobias, or I can't believe we're still saying this after about 7 years. I mean, I really do. I say I don't want to bang on about it. I'd love it, Jason Quinn, if you'd like to come on the show and sort of talk about your position more. So we'd be delighted to entertain you here and to give you a right of reply. I actually think he's. That's the sort of thing that I would wear.
I do like Tony's suit; it's kind of very doctorish.
And Tony's a great guy. I mean, I'm sure Jason's a great guy, but I do think that was an unfortunate statement that he made to Deadline.
To give you an example as well, Dan, about where I was in 2005, where I'd been through the wilderness years, and for years people had laughed at me, going, "Oh, you like Doctor Who?" You know, and then when it came back, and it was such a massive phenomenon and it was loved by pretty much everybody, I was there with a little grin, sort of going, now you get it, now you understand what I love, you know. Whereas now I'm kind of like, I'm not recommending that to anybody. I'm keeping away from that one.
Oh God, yeah, I know exactly. I know exactly what you mean. For now, obviously, the future of Doctor Who does seem to be with Ncuti Gatwa, whether it's for another 8 or 10 episodes or another 28 episodes. That all remains to be seen. Deadline did finish off this article with this: all eyes now on the upcoming season, which is in the can and due to launch next year, along with a long-rumoured set of spin-offs that comprise the new Whoniverse. So Whoniverse is still a thing. The pressure, though, Charlotte, the pressure is on the show, on the intellectual property, and deservedly on the shoulders of Russell T Davies in particular, I think.
Yeah, he had his first impression and he's utterly blown it. He had his first sort of, I'm back, let's see what you can do, Russell, sort of day in the sun. And we said this before, the trust is now gone. And I think that's what's going to be the hardest thing to get back. And this article also reflects that to me, that even the industry is saying, come on, Russell, what are you going to do next series? You need to improve. You need to get better.
It's not going to happen, though, Charlotte.
Well, they've already filmed it. We've said this is the problem always. Going to come back to that, really. But it feels like this is the industry actually, for once, putting out a warning, putting out a sort of get better. And I can't remember the last time I saw that for any property, to basically have somebody like Deadline say, well, look, you've got these issues, you've got that issue, we've got other people in the industry basically saying, come on. I think it's sort of my final thought about this article is this is now telling me it's make or break time for Russell. It's make or break time for Bad Wolf when it comes to Doctor Who.
Yes.
And you know what, Charlotte? I was, you know, when we talked about, you know, and there were interviews with him further along, and I'm paraphrasing, where he says, you got to be a pretty brave person to stop me. You know, when I hear things like this and these insiders saying these things, I don't wish ill will on anybody, but I'm glad it's happening, because everybody in life needs a point where they're checked at the door to say, no, this far, no
Completely
further.
Agree.
You got to toe the line. You got to make sure that you follow these rules going forward. And he's at that point now. He's at that point where he's tried it his way, and they're saying, well, no, too much is riding on this now. We're going to have to reverse. We can't do it all in season 2 because we've filmed it. But if season 3 happens, it's going in a different route.
That's the vibe I'm getting. Very much so now.
We have been
also-
discussing this. Sorry, Matt, you finish off, mate.
No, I was going to say. Also, you have to have the people that watched season 1 come back for season 2.
Yeah,
And
ideally.
a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't start on season 2 like straight off. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
totally.
You know,
Yeah, completely agree. I'll be back, certainly, but let us know whether you'll be back. What do you think of this article there from Deadline? Is it an opinion piece, or is it 100% truth from deep inside? Maybe it could be a bit of both, but you can head over to Deadline and read this for yourselves. Doctor Who's regeneration, has the Disney gamble paid off? And we've had some fabulous comments there in the comments section. As always, lots of your opinions, and you can hit us up with some more as well once you've thought about it deeper, once you've lived with it a little bit longer. All the different corners to the conversation that we've been groveling into on this edition of Type 40 Live. Let us know what you think there in the comments, and the description to the video has the article itself there too for you to go and pore over until your hearts are content.
Hello, my name is Ian Levine, and I'm proud that you're listening and watching the Doctor Who Type 40 podcast here on YouTube.
Yes, that's the Deadline article. We've been going over it with a fine tooth comb, but there is one more thing. We're going to round things off with a last quick look at the view screen. It's our regular eye up your temporal schism in search of some of the prettiest pictures from out there in the Whoniverse. Fan art. Of course, we're talking about fan art. It could be digital art. It could be traditional art, pen and ink, or paint on paper. It could be crafting, maybe, or a bit of cosplay. It's all completely viable targets to get onto the view screen here. And what we need for you to do is to let us know where we can find your favourite fan artists. Have they got a website? Have they got an Instagram account? An Etsy page? Do they flog the stuff? We need to know. So send us their way or them our way. We don't really care how it works as long as we get more of the good stuff up here on the view screen at Type 40 Live. So where shall we go first? Which one should we take a look at first? Let's nourish ourselves with a reliable artist, shall we? Daryl Joyce. Are you out there, Daryl Joyce? Fabulous artist, does traditional and digital stuff. And this one, I'd not seen this before. Forgive me if you guys have. It could be an old one because he's been banging them out for years, haven't you, Daryl? This is Daryl's take on 1975's openings Tom Baker story. Is it 74 or 75? I think it might be the end of 74. 74, yes, it was. 74. It's called Robot, and this is Daryl Joyce's beautiful take
Fantastic.
on that moment there where Bessie comes between the legs of the giant robot itself. Wow. The drama, Charlotte, the drama.
Well, it's just to see that design realised properly, it feels like what it was, that just a scale. Like, that's what impresses me about the robot in that.
Yeah. Yeah, I really, really love this. It's a favourite story of mine, and the design of the robot itself too. John, it's just so iconic. I mean, look at it.
Yeah. I mean, it's fantastic. I mean, I always look out each week now for Daryl's latest stuff because it's a little happy pleasure of mine. And in fact, I'm actually going to try and get in touch with him because I really want to see if it will allow me to have one for like a desktop for my PC, because I love him. I think he's put one out today I've seen, which is a Genesis of the Daleks as well.
Yeah, I've seen
which
that one too.
I love it. I really do. And
couldn't
Evil
quite
of the
decide
Daleks.
Which one to bring. Richard Brooks says he loves Daryl's art so much too. John, we feature Daryl quite regularly on this.
Yeah, he's so
sorry
good.
to give you a big head. He really is one of the best. Lovely, says on comics they're beautiful, says Darren in the Darren Zone. And Mark Milford too says that's art, real art. Matthew Pounder suggests it could make a good jigsaw, Matt.
It could. It could. I get a little bit lost around the sky bits, but
So would I. I'm bloody awful. I get very impatient when it comes to jigsaws. Kind of vandalism to cut this thing up. But yeah, a lot of people like a jigsaw, it has to be said. Wow, fabulous, says Crimpling to Balloon. Daryl is amazing, says Richard Brooks. And David describes it as stunning, a stunning image. Pretty picture time, says Richard Brooks. Yes, pretty pictures indeed. Pretty pictures and pretty girls and pretty boys. Now, this next fella, I'm very much undecided on him, but I know that he's a popular pick, Charlotte. Many people's idea of who would make a fabulous doctor if the part was to become vacant again.
Prediction and a fan
prediction. Well, it's one of those names that just seems to come up quite a lot. And for a while, I think he was permanently out of the picture. But perhaps now, as they are stablemates at Disney, because this is someone who does a lot of work for Marvel Studios and Disney, he's got his own show. In fact, maybe one day, Tom Hiddleston could be the Doctor, and that would absolutely make our friend here, Simon Bartlett, very, very happy. So he's contributed this piece of digital fan art where he puts Tom Hiddleston himself there in a very doctorish coat, holding a Sonic-esque device, and he's got a kind of Paul McGann-looking scarf on there. This is one of the names, isn't it? It's kind of like Tom Ellis. It's one of those names that always comes around, John.
Yeah, it is, and I miss the times when we were kind of at that level of getting that kind of actor. And I just think we've dropped a level or two now, don't you? It just, I just don't think they're going for these top level people anymore. It's. I don't know if it's because they don't think they'll get them, but I really do wish we can get talented people like this to play the Doctor going forward. You know, what are you guys thinking?
I'm so sick of the sight of him now. A few years ago, I'd have agreed with you, but I mean, I love him in The Night Manager. I like him as Loki. I can't stand the bloody show, but I like him. I think he's a great actor. But I think the ship may have sailed now, Charlotte. Do you like Tom Hiddleston?
I think, I love him in Marvel. I love Loki. I think he's a very complex character, given lots of layers with the acting of Hiddleston. I just think I think the problem is with Hiddleston, he's one of those actors that is pretty much got a set Doctor in mind when people cast him. Like, they sort of got an idea what he would do, a bit like, I think Cumberbatch, somebody's just said him in the chat, like he's another one,
yeah.
And I just think, actually, the more I think about it, I'd love him to be in the show, actually maybe a villain, maybe be a Time Lord, just be a different character. I think he would be really good in the show, but just not as a Doctor, is my vibe at the moment with Hiddleston.
Stephen Braddock says he looks very Doctor, if only. David Jenkins says, I think he's too significant an actor, too high profile now. Fair point, isn't it, Matt?
Yep. No, I mean, I'm not a huge fan of him. I didn't watch the Loki series. I totally bonked out of that one. I'm just not interested in Marvel properties anymore. But yeah, I mean, he was good in the King Kong movie, Skull Island, which is
yeah, he was, yeah,
back in that. So yeah, I mean, yeah, if he's not doing anything, you know, we could do with you right now. So.
Ada McGeer says, tired of unknowns. We need a few knowns and good knowns, and not necessarily super high knowns, but certainly people that you hear the casting and are assuredly like, yeah. A lot of people felt that way about Peter Capaldi, and I think the position the show is in at the moment, I mean,
safe pair of hands.
Before shooting Gatwa, I wanted this. I believe Doctor Who should be a star-making role, but I think sometimes the gamble, just when it doesn't pay off, when they fall flat on their face, everybody notices, and it's probably not a gamble worth taking anymore. I can see why people look at Tom Hiddleston and why Simon Bartlett has created a piece of artwork simply around the notion there is probably not going to be anything that goes out of fashion too soon. No, he's quite a young actor as well, so people will be speculating about him for another 20 years, I suspect, Charlotte.
But at our age, Dan.
He's a bit younger, I think. He's certainly younger than me.
A little bit younger,
yeah. As always, if you're a fan artist or you know a fan artist and you think that we need to get their work up on our view screen, just get in touch, send us their way or them our way. And yeah, we'll fill the walls here, these blank walls of the TARDIS, with some fabulous artwork. Reach out to us through our social media. That's Instagram and X at Type40 with that, or you can cut out the middleman and plaster it, festoon the wall of the Type40 Facebook group with fabulous fan artist work, if you credit their work as well, so we know who they are when we bring it to the view screen. Join the Type40 Facebook group. you may find you're amongst good company. I'm not confirming or denying that any or all of these guys are members of the Type 40 Facebook group, but the only way that you can find out for certain is by hooking up with us over there at Facebook. You've been watching Type 40 live across Rumble, X, YouTube, and on Facebook. Thank you so much for this robust, in-depth analysis of that new article from Deadline there that was published just yesterday. It's in the description to the video for you to see for yourself. Maybe we'll go back into it as well. Maybe some of it will prove to be fortuitous. Charlotte, who knows where? I mean, they're very convinced, aren't they? It's nice to see Doctor Who getting some coverage, and that has travelled. So it's been picked up by places like Comic Book News, the kind of places you'd expect, but it's also been picked up by The Independent, various newspapers here in Britain. So Doctor Who is making news again. It's a pity it can't be for a slightly more upbeat reason, but there you are.
Yeah, I think we'd rather have a glowing Deadline report than a sort of the future's in the balance.
Yeah.
It'd be fantastic to have some positive news for Doctor Who.
It does mean that Shooty's still crying. Bless his heart. But maybe
that's just the waxwork melting, that is.
Maybe he'll have pulled himself. Maybe he'll have pulled himself together by the time we next meet here at Type 40 Live for more hot takes, pet peeves, rants, and raves. So yeah, we keep doing it. We keep banging it out as long as they keep giving us reason to. Just when you think it's gone quiet, something else whirls up out of the vortex. Thank you everybody for your company there across YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and X. It's been a belter. Please, yes, if you think you're subscribed, please check you're subscribed and turn on the notifications. There'll be a lot going on over the next couple of weeks. Charlotte, we've had you for the duration.
I know.
Thank you for your company, for your contribution.
She was here for the fan art too.
What a fabulous show.
Yeah.
And Matt Pott, as always, God, I could say that I'm sad to have got you up this early, but I'm not.
No,
You've been fabulous value, as always.
Anytime.
And John Yulden, who's left his sick couch to join us. You can go and have a rest now, mate, and down something thick and cold.
That was great fun. Thanks, guys. That's burnt away the COVID tonight, that has.
Don't forget to make sure you've hit the cloister bell to get all our notifications, because we will be back. We'll be back soon. We always have the time if you have the space here at Type 40 Live. Have a great weekend. We'll speak to you again soon. Bye-bye.
See ya.